Welcome to Mi Ka'amcha Yisrael. I'd like to begin with a question. If you were told that a newborn baby had the potential to become Moshe Rabbeinu, how would you raise that child? You would guard every word spoken around him. You'd be careful with what he hears, with what he absorbs, with what he's exposed to. You'd understand that nothing is neutral because greatness doesn't just suddenly appear one day. It's formed quietly long before it's ever revealed. And yet, when it comes to our own children or even ourselves, we're often assuming something so different. We assume we're ordinary. Parashat Shemot challenges that assumption at its core. When Moshe Rabbeinu was saved from the Nile, Paro's daughter attempts to find an Egyptian woman to nurse him, but the baby refuses. Chazal tell us that Moshe would not nurse from an Egyptian woman because this mouth would be the one that would one day speak to the Shekhinah. And the Gemara asks an astonishing question. How could Moshe already be different? He was only a baby. The answer given is even more astonishing. Because kedushah, holiness, is absorbed before it's ever expressed. The mouth that would one day speak to the Shekhinah couldn't be nourished by impurity, even before Moshe knew who he was and even before the world knew who he would become. The Ramah codifies this as halacha, teaching that ideally a Jewish child should nurse from a Jewish woman. And Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky asks the obvious question, was Moshe Rabbeinu not a singular anomaly? How can we build a halacha principle for all generations from a child destined to speak to Borei Olam? Rabbi Yaakov answers one of the most powerful ideas in chinuch and in Jewish thought. We are obligated to gaze upon every Jewish baby as having the potential to speak to the Shekhinah. Not because they all will, but because they all might. And that changes everything. The Torah itself hints to this idea. When Moshe Rabbeinu was born, the Torah doesn't list his lineage. Only later, when Moshe ascends to the next level to fulfill his mission, does the Torah reveal his yichud. Because at birth, potential is undefined. It hasn't yet chosen its direction. A child is raw. He's unshaped possibility, and so is an adult. Every Jewish soul carries within it a depth that we don't see. Sometimes even a depth we ourselves don't yet see. And because of that, the Torah demands that we treat ourselves, our children, and every Jewish encounter with profound seriousness. Because kedushah isn't created in moments of revelation. It's built quietly through what we all allow in, what we tolerate around us, and what we assume about ourselves. Parashat Shemot reminds us before Moshe ever spoke to Borei Olam, before he ever stood at the burning bush, before he would ever be called a leader, he was already holy. And so are we. Long before we ever prove it. Sometimes the truest measure of kedushah isn't what a person teaches, but what others absorb simply by being near them. I'd like to share a story. Recently, a Yid, a Jew, who serves as a gabbai in a shul in Bnei Brak, moved to a new apartment. For years, he was scratching and saving a substantial sum of money carefully, responsibly, and on the day of the move, with boxes, balagan everywhere, distractions piling up, he temporarily placed the money bag inside the kitchen cabinet. He told himself, I'll take that last. But you know how moving days are. They have a way of erasing intentions. The move was finished, the apartment was emptied, and the money, well, it was forgotten. The apartment was sold, and over the next few days, workers came in, they renovated, they were painting, they were fixing, they were preparing the space for the new owner. Miraculously, the money went unnoticed. Then, a cleaning woman was hired to prepare the apartment, a chadema, for final move-in. She opened the cabinet, and there it was, the flus, a bag filled with money. She didn't hesitate. She didn't calculate. She didn't rationalize. She closed the cabinet, approached the apartment's new owner, and said simply, excuse me, I found a bag of money in the kitchen. Perhaps the previous owner left it behind. The owner immediately called the former resident. Did you by chance leave money in the apartment, he asked. There was a pause, a moment. Let me check. And then it hit him. It hit him hard. Yes, he said. His voice was shaking. Of course I did. He rushed over and he sat down and started to count the money. Every single bill, including the singles, were there. Baruch Hashem, not a single dollar was missing. Overcome with hakarat tov, gratitude and disbelief, he turned to the chadema, a goya, and he gently asked, I have to ask you something. I have to ask. Someone else might have been tempted to take this. What made you return it? She looked at him, genuinely surprised by the question, and she answered, buckle up. She answered with complete sincerity. I regularly clean in Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein's house. Should I steal money? That was it. No lecture, no rules, no supervision, just the quiet influence of a Torah home. And in that moment, the Gabbai understood something profound. Kedushah doesn't always teach. Sometimes it just radiates. It shapes people who were never instructed. It elevates choices that nobody will ever see. It leaves fingerprints long after the words are gone. And if this is what a Torah presence can awaken in someone who never learned a word of Torah, imagine what it's doing silently and steadily with every Jewish neshama. Ladies and gentlemen, Parashat Shemot reveals something quiet and profoundly demanding. Kedushah is not created in a moment of greatness. It's formed long before in moments that nobody applauds because we don't see it. Moshe Rabbeinu had not yet spoken to the Shekhinah, and yet the Torah tells us that the Shekhinah was already present. It was shaping him, guarding him, defining him, because a Jewish neshama doesn't wait to become holy. It's already carrying kedushah. And that holiness does something extraordinary. It influences without teaching. It elevates without ever announcing. It leaves an imprint even on those who were never instructed. Sometimes the greatest testimony to who we are is not what we say in public, but what others do when they think that no one will ever know. Parashat Shemot is reminding us that every Jewish soul carries responsibility far beyond itself. Responsibility for the spaces that we inhabit, for the standards that we normalize, for the unseen choices or presence that inspires. And if that's true, then we leave this parasha with a humbling awareness. We are shaping far more than we realize. We are influencing far more than we can see. And the holiness, the kedushah we carry, is already speaking long before we ever open our mouths. Shabbat shalom u'mivarach.